The most important question I would ask you as you're manifesting is, are you identifying as the new version of you? Manifesting can be so easy, and in this video, I'm going to explain why. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. We are jumping right into the topic of making manifesting easy, having better assumptions, but it's also predominantly about how you think, the way your mindset works, and building into that. You are in control of it. You can shape it. You can change the negative reactions into positive automatic reactions. This video is going to talk all about that, why you can actually believe in your manifestation so much quicker, in such a more effective and actually fun way. So that's what we're delving into today. Do thumbs up, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. It's quick, it's free, and it really supports my channel. So if you want to see more of these videos, please do so. You can also become a member. You can sign up for my LOA Coaching Darling program, and every month you get tons of exclusive content that the members literally get to decide and then actually ask me coaching related questions. So you don't want to miss out on that. And on screen is all my other information as well in the description box. But now let's start the video. You keep identifying with the past version of you. So yes, it's all about, the reality and what your current reality is reflecting, but really you're just feeding into yourself, your own identity, and you keep focusing on acting like, thinking like, and literally identifying with that past version of you in the old reality. It might seem like the circumstances are objective and that is your just objective reality, and that is blocking you. And, as soon as you can remove no contact with SP, as soon as SP replies to your messages, as soon as you have that conversation with someone or you lose 5 pounds, then everything will be perfect and then you'll be happy and positive. You keep thinking from that version of you that doesn't have it. And you're thinking, okay, the circumstances, this is my actual reality. This is what really is going on. This is literally holding me back. It's not, it's all a subjective perspective. And you're not wrong for thinking that. That's the human brain. And it's not about stopping and completely preventing that way of thinking, but flipping it on its head. So being able to, with your automatic reactions, decide, I'm going to think from the new version as if I have it. Not panicking and spiraling when circumstances show up, and being able to push back calmly against any logical thoughts. The only objective reality is that you are holding yourself in that version of reality. So if you keep thinking and feeling based on what happened in the past, that's what's going to hold you back, and you're going to remain in that same spot because you're going to keep replaying the circumstances, keep the same thought patterns and habits and way of thinking, the assumptions that literally come up, because your subconscious controls approximately 90% of your thoughts, 90% of the way you're literally thinking throughout the day. So if you keep allowing the same patterns to come up and not consciously take control and push back, then your mind is going to keep saying, here's the assumption based on that negative circumstance. Here's a negative belief built off of a negative 3D circumstance. It's going to be this perpetual cycle that you're feeding into. If you let all of your feelings and emotions, maybe that's in terms of, in the context of spiraling, and your thoughts, again, they're automatic, you're letting them kind of flow, and they do come up. No one chooses to think, negatively and says, I'm going to have a really negative day today. No one thinks that way, but you're letting it happen. You're not applying maybe self-awareness, mental diet, and I'm going to get into all of that in the next section as well. So if you're not consistently thinking from the end result, and you're not applying a decent mental diet, which your thoughts never have to be and never will be perfect, but they should be very dominantly focused on the version that you want. Even if it's just one area like SP, all your thoughts about SP, you should have at least the effort to flip them around. Think conscious, positive thoughts. Imagine you're already in that relationship. That's the way to think. And if you're not doing all these things I've mentioned, that is going to be the biggest block. I would advise you guys to do a daily verbal rampage. So if you're in this kind of funk and you feel like you're kind of stuck, the circumstances have been rolling in and it's negative and you're just not happy with where things are, do a daily verbal rampage. So this is a really good technique. This is kind of old school. This is not a new method at all, but it's basically speaking as if, speaking from the end result, an inner conversation, but you're kind of doing it out loud, having fun, like I guess essentially method acting, and method acting from your desired reality. And you're literally repeating affirmations, phrases, just statements and a literal conversation back and forth. It doesn't have to be I am, SP is. It can be life is so good because SP's just literally in love with me and I get everything I want. Everyone I want in my life is perfect. Everyone's here exactly as I want them to show up and I'm just that powerful. It can be a little inner conversation of that nature. Once you start doing it and you have fun with it and you gain your confidence, it does flow a lot more naturally. This is one of my absolute favorite methods, and if I want a little boost, I always do this. Set aside a bit of time to do this every day. And in terms of adding this in as like an extra little method and technique to boost your mood, boost your mindset, I would say pick one key area where you think there is the biggest block, the biggest issue for you, whether it's SP, self-concept. So if you're comparing yourself a lot, it could be self-concept, even manifesting speed, what your assumptions and beliefs are about manifesting, the ease, how manifesting works for you, all these things. Pick one key area where you can really focus this method on, this practice on, and even if it's just the 5 minutes, setting a 5-minute timer on your phone and doing that little verbal rampage. Pick an area where you're just going to go ham. You're just going to go crazy with, whatever fun, exaggerated, confident statements you can think of. And no, it's nothing to do with belief. You probably won't really believe any of them, but you just say them anyway. And start asking yourself as well, what would my internal state be in the end result? So what would you be experiencing internally? And that doesn't mean that if you feel happy or have a happy day, that suddenly all your thoughts and beliefs and assumptions are flipped around. But if you can connect to that end result and you can literally feel it as if it's real, you're more likely to visualize it. It's more likely to feel realistic as you're saying it and you're feeling the emotions or the end state or just feeling confident, good, any of these kind of emotional states, then it's really going to boost it and make it seem more realistic to your mind, to your body. And obviously that internal state is also your thoughts, your mindset. What would you be thinking? How would you react? What automatic thoughts would pop up? If you look at your phone screen, you would immediately be thinking, oh yeah, my boyfriend, my girlfriends are going to text me any moment. Like I anticipate and expect to see a message on the phone screen or, a notification from your bank saying another massive deposit has been made, and you would just maybe think certain things and expect and say, oh yeah, it's Friday, therefore this amazing thing is going to happen. So start asking yourself and thinking, okay, what would I be thinking? What would I internally be experiencing? And then start consciously creating that for yourself without the belief. It's about starting to convince yourself more and more with each time you do this every day, making it into a daily practice, that you feel and believe in this end state. You feel the end state of already having what you want. You believe that it's already yours. You're internally experiencing it mentally, even if you can only hold it for 10 seconds at a time. You are imagining it, feeling it, thinking it, and you're just connecting to it. No doubt your bad mood or anxiety will be lifted. Like that's what I mean by feeling from the end state. You will naturally bring up these emotions. You don't force anything. You just ask yourself, okay, what would I think? What would I feel? Okay, I'd feel happy, confident, fulfilled. I would be thinking all these thoughts about, my manifestation and what an amazing part of my life it is, something like that. And then start bringing up thoughts that help you connect to that. So just literally telling yourself, I feel this way. I am thinking now about this fact in my life. It's so amazing, but also completely natural that I have this thing in my life. Just starting to make it more normal and normalizing it to your mind and body. I would also say keep track of consistency and repetition. If you've gotten into this state, like I said, you're in a bit of a manifestation funk, you're finding it hard to get the motivation and boost that you need to persist, then keep track of your consistency and your repetition. So that can be done in different ways, like a physical diary of you writing out how much time you spent or tallying up. Maybe if you say, all right, I do 100 in 10 minutes or whatever, or even 100 a minute of your affirmation, whatever it is. That 100 a minute is probably a bit impossible, but you know what I mean. So let's say if okay, this is how long I spend, this is the approach I take, even if you only do it 5 minutes a day, start by tallying that up and say, okay, this is my daily practice. This is more or less, if you can't physically count everything directly and accurately, then just say, okay, this is basically what I do. Write it down, do a tally. I've done that before. I tally up like a mental diet or how many times I loop an affirmation, and it really helps you keep track of things and actually understand where you're at. Have you applied a lot of saturation? Have you been consistent, or have you maybe only spent a full 5 minutes for the entire day? only said your affirmation 50 times and nothing else. That is not going to bring in quick shifts because your mind has already got created, believed assumptions and beliefs stored in the subconscious. So just by applying a little bit in the entirety of, let's say, 16 hours of being awake and having conscious thoughts constantly going through your mind, reactions, subtle opposing thoughts coming up, if you're not doing anything other than something of a low volume like that, then you're not going to get out of it very quickly. You want to be consistent and persist, even if it's just a couple days of really going hard with a mental diet. Keeping track, being consistent, saying, okay, I'm going to triple what I'm doing and building up from that. Whatever you can do realistically, whatever works for you and is feasible, and you're able to add this into your daily routine, start by doing that. Even if just the first few days are really intensive and really shifting your mindset, then you can slow down a little bit as time goes on. The repetition and consistency are the key to getting exactly what you want. Before I move on to the third and final part of my advice, I would also say pinpoint the bad habits that you think are holding you back. So maybe it's constantly checking social media, constantly checking your phone, because then you know what your mind would think. If you're waiting for some form of communication and you're constantly checking for it, you're doing that action because you don't have it. You haven't received it. And then as you're doing it, you're also not thinking a positive thought. So there's a reason behind all these little habits, getting out of them, having discipline and, being strong-willed to tell yourself and understand why it's important not to do these things, why it's important to push past the urge to check something, to keep, going in this cycle and searching and seeking validation from someone or something. When you pinpoint what it is that makes you feel triggered or spiral or think negative thoughts and just really applying that self-awareness, it's going to be a huge shift. It's going to be a massive step forward because you're going to realize this was actually triggering me. This was holding me back. Things like also counting days since communication or quantifying the journey so far. You're just going to keep telling yourself, it's been 22 days without my manifestation. It's been 23 days without my manifestation. That's kind of how your mind is going to be thinking. So you want to be on top of that and understanding, all right, I'll try not to do these bad habits anymore, and then I'll apply my mental diet if something does come up. Neville Goddard's key principle was always that you have to feel it as if it's real internally for it to show up. So you have to mentally, internally experience it, start convincing yourself, no one else. You're not changing anybody else's mind, you're changing your own in order for your manifestation to actually come into your physical reality. When you put your focus on your desired reality, all the other possibilities and the probability of any of those other potential outcomes happening collapses into your focused reality or observed reality. So that one reality, which is where you're focused, whether it's simply, I'm in a relationship with SP, my life is perfect, I'm very wealthy and successful, wherever your focus is in the area of manifestation that you're doing, maybe it's your entire life, that's fine. You can do a blanket affirmation and obviously it's the same principle. All your focus of having that reality be true and that outcome be true, the probability literally collapses into that reality. Every other potential fades away, and that is the reality you're bringing into you and experiencing, and the quantum, mechanics are bringing it all in because that's where your focus has gone. You've convinced your mind, this is my reality, this is what I'm living, so it has to come to you. And in order for that to happen, you have to consistently think and speak to yourself, not necessarily to other people, but to yourself, your inner conversations, as I said, as if you're already in that reality. Looping affirmations, being consistent, teaching your mind with this constant saturation of your affirmations, of that focused outcome. And imagine imagine scenarios, visualize scenarios like, if you work from home, for example, you go to school or a workplace, whatever it is, imagine this is connected to my desired outcome because X also happens or X just happened. Fill in that blank with, replace it with your desired outcome. SP just took me on a date. I just got tons of money into my bank account. Whatever, connect your daily tasks, daily things that happen. Imagine scenarios playing out as if you're already there. Remember as well that it does take time and patience. So don't expect miracle overnight results. This is not a guarantee, but if you stay consistent, and again, don't count the time, don't get focused or caught up on a length of time. Just keep reminding yourself, I'm already in that reality. And obviously don't rush or force it. Those are the key points as well to remember as you're doing this. It does take that balance, finding the right balance and being able to get into that groove of not panicking and overthinking and, being consistent and then completely falling off it. Because if you keep checking and judging your current reality, then it's really just going to keep you in that mindset. So my overall advice would be to apply your mental diet, keep flipping around those negative opposing thoughts, thinking from the end result, not thinking of as if it's just something in the distance, but from already being in that end result. So that summarizes all my advice for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, found that useful. If you did, please do thumbs up, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and I will see you next time.